All right, welcome everyone. First item on the agenda is the update on the flu clinics.
I just want to give the Board of Health an update of this year's flu clinic at the senior center. We had 12 residents who got their flu shots. And at the Misco High School, or middle school rather, we had 36 residents.
Yeah, that reflected on last year's numbers.
Well, it's funny you should ask. Senior center last year, we had 15 last year compared to 12 this year. In Misco last year, we had 48. This year, we had 36.
So you have 48 altogether.
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Down by 15.
A lot of people go to CVS and Walgreens. Yeah,
There's so many other opportunities and venues to.
Right.
I had my
Well, and
COVID
some people, I'm
Oh,
gonna.
you did? On Monday, yeah.
Combination
I got
shots
it
available,
Walgreens, yeah.
may have taken advantage depending upon
So
the
I'm
age
kind of
bracket that they were
Going
in.
to Florida.
Getting that. All right, very good.
I know that's something we're gonna look
Yeah,
at to maybe acquire the super shot for next year.
Good.
Well, I was thinking of
Passed
a
away.
combination flu shot, COVID shot.
Oh,
They
combined
have
with that combo.
Service and everything.
So
We
they decided to go that route.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. So let's move on. I see Mike
Mike's
is
on.
there.
Hey, Mike,
Well,
Ethan?
look at you.
how are you?
Nice
How
to
are we
see
all
you.
tonight?
Fine.
Very good. So item number 2, municipal trash recycling budget review rates of subscribers versus municipal. Welcome, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely.
All right, so in discussion, we were talking about the municipal trash being taken out of the subscribers' rates.
Right.
From the chart, Mike, can you see the screen of the chart?
I can't see it. Yes.
Okay. So looking at the chart with the EL Harvey for fiscal year 2024, the total contract, including EL Harvey recycling, collection, wind waste disposal, and the trash administration was $642,300. So that would equal our subscriber rates of the standard rate of 406 with the senior rate at 203. And speaking with Mike, we were going through the town municipal dumpsters and toters, what the town departments have. As you can see, a majority of the municipalities have dumpsters. We have one with a 2-yard and 4 municipalities with 8-yard dumpsters. The town hall complex has 6 toters total. So again, in reviewing the municipality contract rates, if we took that out of the subscriber rates, the municipality would roughly be about $22,679 for the year.
That's amazing.
So
We're
taking,
Paying that. Oh, my gosh.
so taking that out from the subscribers rate, instead of the $642,300, that would have brought it down to $619,621, where the fiscal 24 rate could have been for the standard and senior rate of 392 instead of the 406 and 196 instead of 203. So I wanted Mike Sussman in on if you guys had any questions in regards to the municipalities, in regards to their trash.
Just a question on the calculations. How are we calculating out these numbers?
And speaking with Mike, it's $11 per yard for dumpster.
Side, so like I say, good example, senior center.
So the senior
That's another
center,
point. I was looking at this chart. Okay, I was just trying to, so taking the senior center,
yep,
one dumpster, total service, that means,
so it's $11 per yard, so times 8, so that's $88 per month, times 12.
gets the 203.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so that's multiplied out. That's total service. Then you have dumpster service.
Yeah, they have a total, I'm sure, for recycling.
Okay. And then the same thing. I gave the 47. Okay.
Do we have any idea if every week that dumpster's full?
I have no idea.
The dumpsters are picked up by a separate truck.
Correct.
Are they picked up by the separate truck all at the same day and time?
That'd be a Mike question. Hey, Mike,
Yes, it'd be a commercial truck that goes out there. They'd all be picked up on the same day. It's a once a week pickup. And we did talk about that, me and Jack going back and forth on whether or not, the service is correct. Are the dumpsters full? I know we used to have a 10-yarder down at the town hall for a long time, and we would dump that and it'd be 2 to 3 yards of trash in that. So I'm not sure if those are the correct sizes. To say that, that should be what they'd be in charge, or should they, a lot of them could probably go to a dumpster. I think highway probably should stay at an 8-yarder, but I'm not sure on the other ones on what the sizes are they full or not, I can always ask the driver next time he dumps next week to give us a quick snapshot, but that's only 1 week, which is hard to say on whether or not they're completely full, or would it be better going to each unit and say, do you need more service than that? I mean, the fire department, a 2-yarder, that's pretty much a standard for any fire department that, has a dumpster at it. It's a 2-yarder because that's kind of all they need. So I don't know if the senior center needs a container that big because they do a lot of food service and there's extra stuff that comes in and goes out. So all those are kind of a question. Highway, I would assume, based on, whatever else they're throwing in there, that could need something that big. But even that could be reduced in size, or, the size is correct. That's why it's a guessing game for me because it is a different driver that picks that up.
Okay,
Excuse me. In my opinion, because they're not paying for it, they're not caring what it is and what's going in or what's going out, or if there was only 2 paper bags in there, they don't care because they're not paying for it. But now that they're paying for it, I'm thinking they're going to be a little more conscientious. Wouldn't you think so?
well, I would, I know we're kind of working toward the goal of trying to figure out financially how that's going to get handled, whether the powers to be want to allocate that to a per department expense, or whether they maybe want to create a general municipal account that's just for trash service. We don't know yet. But you're right.
It would seem
Once
to me
we-
that regardless, the
Right.
person who's going to be paying the change
Right.
is going to want to be a little more conscientious about what, I mean, I know I get to be a little Pollyanna-ish, but I would think that if it was coming out of their budget and stuff, that they'd want to be a little more conscientious. It was coming out of our budgets, they didn't care.
What about the tipping? Does this include the tipping?
It does include tipping, correct, Mike?
Yes. Yep. The $11 per yard based on what we would do on a commercial. When we look at a town contract, that's kind of the number we use. So that's why we came up with that number.
The other question I have is, it's the department. Are those dumpsters being dumped year round?
No, some of those are seasonal, so I'm not sure how often, the parks are on. I know the beach one can't be on all year round because that gets shut down. So I'm sure that it's like everything else. I'd have to go into the system and see when they get shut off. Because they're dumped commercially, I don't see that as much. And, until we started bringing this up, I haven't been investigating to see when the shut off date is on those. But, I'm sure there's an on-off date.
I want to pass on the cost as accurately as possible.
Right.
So it would be unfair to charge them for 12 months if they're not being serviced 12 months, and they shouldn't be serviced 12 months because they should be locked for the season.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think Dan Byer is pretty on top of that stuff.
But again, if I just may interject, would that be, that they're locked up, say right now until April? So say for another 6 months, is the dumpster sitting in Mendon, or does Harvey take that away for the 6 months and bring it back?
No, it physically sits here.
So should Mendon be charged for even having it available type of thing? Or would you just cut the cost even though the dumpster is still sitting in Mendon?
So when you look at the cost of the dumpsters, all the dumpsters were kind of included in that price. When you start to look at, service, so I'm sure when we did the price analysis, we didn't put that the lake in for all year. We didn't put the parks in for all year because we know, prior to this contract that they'd come off on a certain date. So the rate is set for the amount of time we picked it up, not for like a flat all year rate that, if the container sits there, we charge you for 52 weeks. If we're only picking it up for 26 weeks, then that's how it was built into the contract for all those ones that are one-offs that aren't a weekly pickup.
Okay. The toters that are municipal, those are being picked up by Phil?
Yes, yes, they are.
Okay, again, I just want to make sure that we pass the cost on as fairly as possible. So when we have conversations with these individual departments, we can, fine tune some of that stuff. But we already have a contract. And like Mike said, it's already built in. It's just a matter of us, we're not gonna change the numbers on the contract. It's a matter of us passing that fee on as accurately as possible,
Correct.
so that we're fair to each
Yeah.
department. Okay.
Mike, how long do you think it might take? I know you mentioned, looking at it 1 week is just a snapshot. Would you say it would be a case where maybe if we were to ask your driver to, over the course of the next 3 weeks or so, if they could just kind of do like a visual and kind of make a notation of how these dumpsters are in terms of their, fullness, if you will?
Yep, and I'll make a note, I'll put a note in the system, I'll get with the commercial dispatcher and let her know that, for the next 3 weeks, give me a snapshot of what each dumpster is, are they full? I've already got on my note to see when when we shut off all the seasonal ones, when the start dates are and when the shut off dates are. So I'm already I've got that down to check on that. And that way there, at least I think if we do a 3 week snapshot, we'll get a pretty good idea of, are they full, what they need, and then we'll have a much better idea of when when you want to approach those departments to see what the rate should be for their participation.
And the other thought is too, is it a case where, depending on the season that we're asking the snapshot to be taken, is it going to vary much, or is it pretty much what we see in the next 3 weeks is pretty much what we see on a regular basis? I don't know if that factors in or not.
I mean, and that's a hard call. I mean, because like you said, everything's kind of seasonal, right? I mean, things come in, things come out. It depends on, like I said, I think every one of them is going to be a little different. It's going to be very hard to know what the parks have in there. Are they full? Is it really trash from when the parks are open, or is it people bringing in something because they got an empty container there? I know I deal with that a lot in Milford, all the parks and recs, the containers are full with stuff that didn't come from the parks. It came from because after hours, somebody shows up there and they can get into the park and they can dump it there because they show up and see it. So that's a hard call to know if this snapshot would be correct. But if it's not, at least we get a snapshot and then we can make an assumption. And if something changes in the spring or the driver sees something different where all of a sudden it's overflowing, we'll have a quick conversation and we'll adjust that container quickly. So there's no extra charges.
I wouldn't be so concerned so much about the carts as I would be the dumpsters. From the
Yes,
standpoint that the dumpsters can be secured,
Correct.
right? They could be locked.
yep,
So and I don't know, I think we know that the highway department is now locking theirs, right?
Right, but
Highway
to
is,
the
yes.
point that you're all making with the seasonal change, let's just talk about highway for a minute. Highway department, when there's no snow on the ground, they're picking up more trash on the side of the road. Forget about what they're generating from within the highway department. So there's gonna be 4 months a year that they're not gonna be picking a lot of trash up off the side of the road.
Yeah.
So there are gonna be some natural flows, that's why, just like the Parks Department during the months of June, July and August are probably generating more trash
Yep.
than they are if during the month of May and during the month of September and October,
correct.
because they're being used more. So, I mean, those are assumptions that we can make with fairly good accuracy.
Yep.
Just based on discussion.
Yep. I think those would be the only two examples of seasonal, where everything else is probably pretty constant, maybe. Senior center, pretty constant.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, because unless the fire department does a spring cleaning and,
Yeah.
throws out a few extra things, I think they're gonna be pretty consistent with the amount of trash that the fire department generates.
And I think we're just trying to get a fair average. We're not necessarily trying to hit it.
Right.
You know, we're not gonna hit it on spot every time, just what we think will be a fair average.
Yeah, and I think that we can do that with, just having a little bit of discussion and being realistic as to the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
That these departments are gonna have. We should be able to come up with a fairly accurate and fair number.
Yep.
And with the 3 weeks that they're gonna kind of keep an eye on, that'll give us a little more information. I'd be more concerned almost with not just whether they're full or not, but is the driver finding a lot of things in there that shouldn't be in there?
And yeah, that's always a question too, right? I know I had a fire department that had a 10-yard construction, 10-yard container at it in one of the neighboring towns. And most firemen work 3 days on or 4 days on, and then they get the 4 days off, and they all run a construction company on the side. And it was constantly filled with demolition, and it was 3 times a week pickup. I went to a 2-yarder, the demolition all went away, and the 2-yarder has worked fine for the fire department. But again, I don't think, with our fire department and Mendon being at a 2-yard, I don't think the highway's got a bunch of, because they work a pretty consistent shift. I don't think there's a bunch of guys that are bringing stuff into the highway department. So I don't think we have that in Mendon. I think we're going to be pretty consistent with whatever that dumpster is at that location, that the location is using it, not people bringing stuff in from outside.
Okay, and one more thing, Mike, I want to be clear that I understand this correctly, that $11 per yard number covers the dumpster and the tip cost.
Correct. When we do a municipality, that's the number we used. Yep.
Okay, because where we pay 2 separate entities, we pay you
Right.
for the trucking
Yep.
and we
Yep.
pay Wheeler Breda for the disposal. I want to make sure that we're accurately covering that.
All the disposal for the dumpsters are not in your number for your disposal because they're dumped under our commercial account. So everything that we dump on those dumpsters does not get dumped at Win underneath your number. It's a number that we pick that up. And, when our commercial dumpster goes out there, he picks up the 7 locations for Mendon, then he's on to Bellingham, then he's on to, whether it's Blackstone or wherever he's going next, but he's constantly on the move until he packs that truck out and then he goes to dump. But all that disposal is our number. The town does not pay anything extra for whatever we pick up at those dumpsters.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's important.
So,
I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna ask, so that's excellent from that perspective. So is there any piece about the municipal aspect that we should be factoring into the current pricing of our contract for what we do pay for?
I think when we did this, and we've been doing this now, you figure with over 5 years, so we've kind of had a pretty good feeling. And when we do a municipal contract, a lot of times we look at how many containers you have. So you have 7 containers, we figure out disposal, we take an average on what we know the average is, and then we go, this is the number for disposal, and then we put it right into your number, because you require this size dumpster once a week pickup, and we absorb all that disposal because it's picked up with a separate truck. So I don't know how, it would change if you took it out, because I think if you took it out, everything, the disposal would come out. The disposal is what we're eating. So I don't know what number I'd be able to take out if we took out all those dumpsters and said, go find your own location. It was something that we already eat the disposal, and we kind of blended it into that number. So that'd be something I'd have to have a conversation with BJ about and see what we do if they said, okay, we want to take all the dumpsters out. What does that reduce it by?
Well, I wouldn't want to take it out. What
Okay.
I'm just thinking of is definitely keep it the way it is. But we're just trying to kind of as close as possible, accurately pull out the portion that is municipal related.
Okay,
Because the feeling is that, the subscribers alone shouldn't be paying for this entire portion. There should be some contribution at the municipal side.
okay.
So I'm just trying to figure out fairly, and I don't know, maybe this is the formula that you've highlighted that fairly does that.
And it's close. Like I say, when we look at a formula, we kind of take the yards, use that number when we're looking at the disposal and kind of blend it in, knowing that, time and disposal on our end is, what that's gonna be. But yeah, it's not a high number, like if you go outside and try to get a number from some other hauler, it's gonna give them a different number where they're paying for disposals, outside of a municipal contract.
So maybe that's the formula then we should stay with the base to present.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to rent, let's just say you rented an 8-yard dumpster, I'm trying to think, it's been a long time since I rented one. But, an 8-yard dumpster at one point from Service Time,
Yeah,
when they were around, STI, I think they were called.
correct. Yeah,
I know I paid at least $3.50. And it was one tip and I got the dumpster for a week. So $11 a yard is a bargain.
yes, yep.
Okay.
And that's why, most municipalities, when we bid them, we look at the amount of containers. A lot of times we can pick them up, like, Milford can get picked up because we use that certain type of truck out there where they'll dump all the containers, just as they go through the routes. So there's really not a big number on that because they pay the disposal and we pick up the containers on their schedule. So, the one thing about Mendon is the schools aren't in the contract, so that's a big savings when a lot of municipalities have the schools involved on a municipal contract. So, you don't have that burden on this contract at all,
Yard of household trash. What's the average weight on that?
So we look at, it's usually around 98 pounds per yard if we're looking at something where it's an average. And that can be over a long period of time. There'll be rainy days where that average would be 130 pounds, right, per yard. And then there'll be the average on a dry day will it be anywhere between 95 to 98 pounds is what we use for an average on a yard.
Well, it sounds like that's a fair number to be presenting to the powers that be when we start to talk about what we're looking at for moving or to have municipality cover as far as paying. And then the question just becomes, I guess, how they want to do it.
Right, and I'm sure that that's gonna be at the accounting level.
Yeah.
How they dictate it.
Yeah.
But, no, that's good. Anybody have any questions
do.
for Mike?
Mike, would there be any benefit or any reduction with regards to the dumpsters in the fields if once the season ended that we actually remove them and then return them in the spring? Would there be any savings there? Like, if when, with regards to us, like sending a bill to that particular department where it is seasonal?
It's really more cost. There's more cost involved for us if we want to go in and remove a dumpster and then we got to bring it back in the springtime. So by leaving it there and locking it down, the dumpster stays there. We're not sending a separate truck out to go pick up that one container, bring it back to our yard, and then come springtime, return it to the yard. If that's something you want to do, but there's really not a savings on us removing it. There's no rental involved in it. It's an all-in number when we give the town an all-in number when we do municipal contracts like this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Say something.
Oh, I was gonna say, for a 2-yard dumpster, Mike, do you know roughly how many bags of trash would fit in a 2-yard dumpster? Can you guesstimate?
So a 95-gallon cot, which is what you have at the town hall, the big ones, the recycling ones, at 95 gallons. So 2 of those equals a yard. So it'd be a guessing game, right? So 4 of those containers equal 2 yards. So, are we talking 13-gallon bags? Are we talking 35-gallon bags?
Well,
If it's a construction bag, one bag fills that dumpster, or a 45-gallon construction bag fills that dumpster. So it's very hard to say what you're gonna put in a 2-yarder to give you a bag number. I really couldn't do it.
I'm just calculating in my head with the fire department being open 7 days a week, 24/7. I'm sure they have a kitchen that they're cooking meals for their fire people and stuff like that. Compared to the senior center, I'm thinking the senior center could survive weekly on a 2-yard dumpster as well.
Right, and when we have a discussion with them, we may find that. But, the contract is kind of already written.
Mhm.
So finding out that information, the only benefit is gonna be, the benefit would be to the senior center. Because we would pass the cost on to them more accurately if we found they could use a smaller dumpster.
Mhm.
The only time that there would be any savings for the subscribers is when the contract would renew and we'd be rewriting it. And Mike and his guys would be sitting down with a slightly different set of specs when they're calculating the number.
Okay.
That's correct.
Or potentially, if we get the revolving account and all the money that comes in, we can maintain and possibly divvy back out each year as within the contract to the subscriber, right?
All right, that's all I had.
So, it would be to their benefit to work with us on properly sizing the dumpster.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're good with that, Mike? Maybe having your driver kind of
Yep,
eyeball for about 3 weeks or so and
I do. I've already made my note to get them. I'll get them when I go in tomorrow morning, give me an audit for the next 3 weeks on all the dumpsters when he dumps them. And I also put down on, what the current on off is for all those seasonal accounts. So I give you guys that information too.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
See you
Have a,
again.
all right, have a great night.
And Mike, just to
Yeah.
let you know, the camera did not add a pound to your look.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Have a
It's
great
nice-
night now.
Nice
Yeah,
to
thank you.
see you. Nice
Thank-
to see you.
So it sounds like a fair number.
It does, it sounds inexpensive to me. Not that I've rented a lot of dumpsters,
Well, you
but
have that background, so that's good.
I have looked recently into renting like a 30 yard.
Yep.
And I've noticed that the companies are getting more and more fussy about what you put in the dumpster. So they give you a price for a 30 yard based on 2 tons total weight max. If you go, when they put it on the scale to empty it, if you're over the 2 tons, they back bill your credit card.
Mhm.
And if there are items in there that shouldn't be in there, like tires, TVs, refrigerators, any of those things that we know don't go in an ordinary dumpster, the fees are quite high.
Yeah.
Mattresses,
Oh, yeah.
$100 if they have to pull a mattress out and dispose of it separately. So as we know, everything has gotten more and more expensive and things have gotten more restrictive in order to play by the rules.
I think we had to pay for Lauren when, she had the house over on, she has the house over on Rock Meadow Road. And it was just full of stuff. And so I think we had to pay $700 for the one dumpster that they had. It was a big dumpster.
Right.
The guy had left everything in his, all his.
Just think about that though. Let's take,
Yeah,
Did Mike say what day they pick up municipal?
thought he said the same day. Did he say the same?
Yeah, same
He
day,
does, yeah, I know. I think it's Thursdays from an email that I had a few months ago.
Thursdays?
so 30 yard,
Yeah,
$700 is better than $23 a year.
yeah,
Now, granted, that's covering the dumpster rental, because they give it to you for a specified number of days, and the tip.
Yep.
So $11 is reasonable,
right.
as we know, I mean, everything, all the cost is in the trucking. So
Mhm.
like you mentioned, moving the dumpsters and then
Yep.
bringing them back. The trucking cost to
Right.
do that offsets them just sitting there because we're not paying like a monthly rental
Right.
on a dumpster. So I mean, there's no way that anybody would be able to compete with that.
Yeah.
And the other thing we could do is, I mean, we could call around and find out what a 2 yarder costs to dump it every week.
You know what? I think that's their job. To do it. It's not our job to do
Mhm.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it's their dumpster. they should be paying, know what they're needing and paying, and it's not, I don't think it's our job
Right, but what I'm
to,
saying,
to make,
yeah, what I'm saying
what I'm
is
saying?
they're not gonna go outside of EL Harvey
right, well, they shouldn't, but
and get a better price.
No,
They're not going to.
no.
Oh, no, that's
There's,
not gonna happen.
there's no way. So anybody that feels as though we're trying to put an unnecessary burden on them, that's far from the case if they were, as Joyce just said, to call around.
Mhm.
Because they're gonna be paying for the rental and the tip.
And I think our research has already kind of shown what the private, what other options are out there. Are just not as good as what we're getting now. And like I said, our last meeting, I think it was just a case where when it got presented the first time around, it was the timing of the whole thing.
You're right.
It was not, I don't think if we going to them now sooner, they would certainly understand the fairness, I would think.
Yeah.
And they'd be able to prepare
I
for
would
it.
hope they would.
And
I
we,
mean-
we just don't know what the powers to be are gonna wanna do. They may want to create one big account for 22 grand. I guess we probably also have to factor in maybe a little bit more each year because of the 3%,
Yeah.
right? So roughly 22 grand. Or do they want to tell each department, hey, this is what we have to break it down to, and you're gonna have to account for it on your own budget sheet?
I would think that that is the thing, that, to me, to just have a general, $22,000 account.
Right.
Yeah, municipal trash.
municipal trash, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have one line item under waste collection, that's what I have.
We on the agenda for the select board? That's our next step, right?
We could, yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
so if we're comfortable with this and we have this information. It would, my understanding that the next step is to let the board of selectmen
Well,
know what we're.
I think
the
the
direction
thought
we're
was
going
going to, do whatever groundwork we could in the interim, but from the last meeting was to get the reach out to the select board to say, hey, or this is Board of Health, we're looking to get in front of you to talk about revolving account and municipal trash. And I think, from that meeting should include, select board, town administrator, Jody, probably Eric, right?
Yeah.
He's the town accountant. So those would be the key powers. And then present what we're looking to do. We have some numbers here we can give them, and then from there, hopefully they can then tell us, okay, this is the best way to handle this financially from an accounting perspective. Will it be one big account, which sounds pretty simple? That sounds like a good way to go.
Yeah.
Or will somebody say, well, maybe we want to budgetize that per department? That's out of our control.
Right,
That's not our call, right?
right.
Okay, so we had talked about getting on their agenda after the ST,
After the STM,
and that's gonna be,
November 7th, I believe.
Yep.
6th,
November
it's
6th.
a Monday.
Yeah,
The 6th?
Yeah. And I think we thought
I'm gonna.
they
be
meet
away.
every other week. We thought the 15th would be there. That's our meeting.
We are November 15th. No, we're November 22nd, so we were looking at the 15th or the 29th of November. For the
Okay.
select board.
So we think they'd be the 15th of November, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it should be 8 and the 22nd. Okay.
okay, so we're gonna put a request in to get on their agenda for what date?
For November 15th. And then if Mike does the reach out to his driver for the next, what we believe is Thursday, the pickup, theoretically tomorrow, I don't know if that's too soon, you get the word to him, but that still gives 3 weeks before we start next meeting
When did
of
we say-
some data.
Is that
What day we going to do it, the 15th?
November 15th with the select board?
Oh, yeah, I have it already.
She pinned it.
She did.
Yes, I remember we had talked about it because the STM was gonna kind of delay things,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a necessary delay.
Yeah, we just want to give them breathing room,
Oh, yeah, no,
because we're nice.
well, and, you know, again, we started this process early enough.
Yeah.
That,
They shouldn't be able to complain.
yeah,
about it.
depending upon what they, you know,
Right.
come back to us with, if we need to, you know, reach out to each department individually and explain.
I mean, it
What's going
seems to me
on?
like a no-brainer. I mean, you know, it's their trash. It's not my trash, not your trash, it's not his trash, it's their trash. Why should we be paying for it? mean,
I
it's-
think it should be separated into a municipal account, you know, for the dumpsters as opposed to the subscribers. I absolutely
Makes sense.
agree.
Sounds like the simplest way.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like one account to adjust if they ever had to adjust it.
Right,
This is
yeah.
everybody trying to get kind of really minuscule and picky about,
right.
wait a minute, we had only 7 bags this week.
Yeah,
I would imagine it would be easier to establish a municipal trash account as opposed to incorporating it into each individual budget. You know, I think that as a town, because it's municipal trash, that it should be paid out of municipal line item.
And that's just one part of the topic. Because the other parts of the topic involved not losing the funds that E.L. Harvey is sending back to us.
Mhm.
The reimbursement or the, whatever you want to call the money that comes back for hazardous waste day.
Mhm.
All those monies should not be ending up in the general fund. It's that subscriber money.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's more than one topic. We go to the select board.
Yeah.
That we have to make, you know.
That's the revolving account topic.
yes.
That, the revolving account will take care of that issue. But we're looking to try to get revolving
We're
account
talking sticker money,
for trash.
sticker money, money that comes in from E.L. Harvey. Is there anything else that we take in? I don't think
What
so.
does the subscriber fees itself?
Right,
Right.
Any donations? I mean, you know, from time to time, you know, you may receive donations from various organizations,
grant.
all grant money. Yep.
So we need to make sure that we list that stuff. So that it's,
Stays our money.
well, it stays in the subscriber pocket.
It's the
Right.
people's money.
That's right.
Well, I'm the
It's
part of the
not all
people.
the people's.
But it
I'm
would
not-
also allow us to
people.
promote other programs and maybe move them forward, you know, purchase some high dose vaccine, you know, and have a high dose clinic.
Well, yeah, one of the finance committee members mentioned that,
Mhm.
not just lowering the subscriber rate, but being able to enhance the programs as a whole.
Yep.
And I found it very interesting when Mike Mendeleer spoke of how at one point he thought there was a number as big as 150,000. And, you know, he's absolutely right. The town was in a very precarious position at that time. But that money really shouldn't have been
Ended up,
absorbed
yeah.
the way it was.
right.
But their back was up against the wall. There was no other place to go other than whatever money they could, you know, that the town had taken in. So, you know, and he said, you know, himself that, you know, it's definitely time to correct that.
Mhm.
Hey, what was the 4.33? That number represented what in the formula?
Well, the, weeks, some months have 5 weeks.
So that was his average.
Right.
5th week. I got it. Okay.
All right, so I think we've exhausted that. We're gonna put a request in to get on the select board's meeting, and there's 2 parts to our presentation.
Yep.
Since we're on the topic of just municipal, we know what the status is with town council in reviewing the contract, Jack?
I sent an email out to Karis yesterday. I haven't heard back from her.
Anything else on trash? All right, let's move on to the Mendon landfill agreement update, please.
All right, so I was speaking with Jennifer Snee yesterday from Atlas. She did say that the third-party inspection will be by the end of this month. She didn't have an exact date from the inspector. So when me and Tom were talking about it this afternoon, I did send an email out to Jennifer asking for a specific date in case any of the board members wanted to attend that inspection. Also, Jennifer asked us if the board was moving forward with the access agreement to the property. The board asked me to find out what roughly entails the access agreement, and she sent me a draft copy of another town's access agreement for you guys review. And again, talking with Tom, we think it'd be better if she sent us something what is specific to Mendon for the access agreement. So I'm just waiting to hear back on that. But the access agreement was about $1,500 for them to process it.
When I first looked, I didn't catch the word draft. I'm looking, I was like, oh, did we accidentally kind of, pick up on information from Zagawam? So I went to Dr. Jack, said, this looks like this Zagawam. He goes, oh, it's a draft. I'm like, oh, draft. So what they sent was, it was representative of an example of what they would do if we go this route of approving this.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, which personally, I like the idea.
I'm going to Agawam.
They have a great theme park out there, or did have one.
Just checking.
I think it's a great, I think it's a good thing to have.
So I'm still wondering why we're paying for this.
I don't know, that's history.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I can carefully make the assumption is because it was called the Mendon landfill or the Mendon dump.
Was the
How the
Mendon
town
dump,
amended-
it was the town, it was the town dump.
You know,
But the one that, where he bought stuff from out of town, from Boston. That was his dump.
okay, so you're saying
That was his, that was,
we shouldn't be paying the whole bill.
we should not be paying for that. And that was a big part of it. They dug a huge thing, that whole thing in the front. Where your lady friend's
Yep,
house, that's all where that was.
that's,
That was not the town dump where we used to go on the side down there. That was a little ding dang dong thing, because there were, at that time, there were like 2,000 residents in Mendon.
but what it would be is if we were able to go down this road and actually pursue this to segment it, we'd basically be talking about separating the costs for the wells that monitor what would have been the old town dump and the wells that monitor the other portion. And I don't know if that's an even split. I know there's
I
like
don't care if it's
six.
an even split,
No, what I'm saying is I'm just not sure. We'd have to look at the map to see where they're positioned,
right?
and
I'm
I think
still
you
trying to
physically
get
were
right
down
to
there.
Yeah, I think there's more on the left.
which would
Yeah,
make
on the left.
sense because it was a bigger area.
Right,
It was more of a
I'm
concern.
thinking there might have only been a total of 4 on the right, 2 and 2. So 1 for water, 1 for gas, 1 for water, 1 for gas. On the left side, there might have been twice as many.
because that was huge.
Water gas type of thing.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Right, because they're in twos, if I remember
Right.
correctly. Because they're taking, so I'm gonna assume that there may be at different depths, or there's different filters in there.
Yeah,
Because you don't want water and gas and water.
yeah. I mean, having,
lived it.
So how would we want to approach it?
well, I think that we have to probably talk to the attorney and say, you know what, we've been paying for this. It's not ours. It is definitely not ours. It's definitely belongs to the landowner. They're the ones that, they were doing that. You know, and you can see that. I mean, he lost his thing in the courthouse. So they had to stop, but until he had to stop from the court, he kept doing it.
So.
You know,
do we-
and then he stopped the whole dump totally.
The whole thing, right?
Yeah, he said, hey, you think
I'll
you
pick
want?
you and-
Yeah, but I
Joyce, you're a lady.
did,
You can't repeat what he said.
yeah.
Okay, so in that line of thinking, do we develop a timeline? The best we can
Right,
to present to the attorney so that the attorney has a picture of what we're talking about. Because you're the only one that lived it,
right,
okay? So if we develop some sort of a timeline, and it might take a little while to do so, because we might start off with a timeline and then find we need to add a little more detail,
right.
you know, or we might have switch a few things. So that might take, multiple steps to get a timeline that gives the attorney a picture of what went on,
Right,
because they need that history in order to give us some guidance.
Well, I think we could probably present it to them as a general summation of what we're looking to do. To be able to look at it from a legal perspective as a scenario. And then from that scenario that we present, have them come back and say, well, these are your options. Or a lot of years have gone by, you really don't have any options.
well,
I don't know that we have
you
to
know,
present the
they-
timeline
Okay.
up front
Right.
at some point.
I don't think, I'm wondering if the cost of pursuing it, we might not get permission to pursue it,
That's always a possibility.
because I don't think we would ever see any money.
back.
The only possibility, and I'm guessing, is you'd end up with a lien on the property,
Mhm.
and the only time you'd ever see any money is if someone were to buy the property.
Which is,
So
Which is for sale at the moment.
it is actually for sale.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay,
There may be a statute of limitations on it too.
all right.
I had a lien on a property at one point and it expired after 20 years.
No, for the town to have pursued it.
Yeah, we may be.
I can't figure out how that,
Well, it's
Alright,
all
well-
what's spelled out in that DEP, that Jack and I found, with parcels, the town is responsible for, and what parcels Ferrucci is
Right.
responsible for. And then we had that map, and we've been trying to figure out, like, that A, B, C, D, and E, where that falls geographically on the parcel itself. And we just haven't been able to. I checked the, registry of deeds, and I didn't see anything on there either.
So you're saying you actually came across a document that actually distinguished responsibility?
Oh, yeah, we have it.
Yeah, Mass DEP letter.
Yeah, well, it's the court,
yeah,
the
it was
court
when we went to-
order,
right.
the, judgment from the court.
Which is fantastic. So somewhere along the line,
How that, I mean, I ended up not being on the board anymore. How that happened,
I would venture to say that once the monitoring started, no one ever thought to, hey, this percentage of this cost goes to this person and we'll pay this. I think what ended up happening was, let's just pay the bill. That's what I think probably happened.
I don't
I
know,
went
that
back in
doesn't make,
minutes, Jack checked Board of Health minutes, I went back I went into Ellen's office. Him and I were comparing notes, and we have, what we found, and we have that blurry map
Yeah.
thing, that shows the parcels and stuff, but.
Well, I wonder what would have happened. DEP orders the town to do the testing. So in essence, according to that document, we were responsible for this, they were responsible for that.
Did it specify both sides or did it say just the town's responsible to test it all?
No, it said the town was responsible for parcels A, B, and C. And then there was parcel D and E. So what we were trying to figure out is
where's
that,
D and E?
exactly.
Yeah.
On,
D, I can tell you I could tell you where it is physically, like, you go up that thing to the dance studio. It's that whole thing all the way
On the left.
on the left-hand side of the road, behind that lady's house, all the way up following the river.
But what I'm thinking is if the town is ordered to do these tests, we're gonna do it and we're gonna pay because we don't want to get in trouble with DEP. But but if you have a partner who says, I'm not paying, that kind of leaves the town on the hook.
Correct.
Well, then the town should sue them,
Well, yeah, because it was a legal decision, so we could
Right.
sue them.
right?
Probably should have, but
Right, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking.
I just don't know how that happened.
it's,
But we have, so Joyce, we have, we got from them the, locations of all the wells.
Right.
And if you, looking at it, can say, you know, what parcels that they're on, that's what Jack and I have been trying to figure out.
Yeah,
You know, but because we have the judgment from the court, we have the parcels, we have the well locations, but just can't figure out
which is which.
what, if any of those well locations are on parcels D and E, or if they're all on A, B, and C. And if they are, then it's the town's responsibility based upon the court, the
Right.
judgment.
where are these documents right now?
We haven't, yeah, we haven't.
So I'll take a look at them.
So you'd have to have the diagram pictorial of these parcels, so that represents the conversion
I'll
into
go
the
down to Fred
language
again.
of A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay.
Because in
Do
the
they-
document, if
Do
they're
they
saying,
show the house? Do
Mentioned
they
it
show the
interesting,
driveway?
but I think
Say
Fred
again?
knows better.
Is the house and driveway on it?
Yeah, he does.
No, I believe it's just the landfill itself, just shows roughly
Okay, so,
ovals.
I have to bring him some fish.
but I might not.
see, there should be something that the courts would have had to have visually looked at in
Yeah,
order to
it's this
take
blurry
AB.
parcel
It was
thing
an
that we
aerial,
have,
an aerial view. I don't know how they got an aerial view back in the day,
but they
but there's an
did,
aerial view of the land
Okay.
itself.
yeah.
So they would have had to have had something
Hanging out the
visually
plane.
to distinguish, to know what A, B, C, D, E, and F
Correct.
were. So that would be the document ideally that we.
Well, I'll go down to Fred again and see,
But again, it all
Get
depends on
him
that
to
closing
find
agreement,
it again.
which DEP says they cannot find.
What?
There's gotta be a closing agreement. And I requested a public records request and they said they cannot find it. So I think that would detail who's responsible for everything.
Because there were no attachments to the findings by the court. That's what, when we found that, we were like, oh, good. And there was no attachments to it. But then we found, in another file, because there were, those two boxes that you found, we were going through it and there was this aerial photo. So we kept that because the court's findings mentioned the parcels individually. And we were hoping that that would help us. And then we had the genius idea of getting a hold of Atlas and finding out where the well locations were. We thought maybe we could compare it that way.
Right.
We have the map for the well locations.
Correct.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got that.
We have that.
Yep.
Usually when a piece of land is divided into parcels, whether it be numerically or alphabetically, usually there is some civil engineering description. North 220 feet.
Yep.
Longitude, latitude type of thing.
No, actually, it would be a north, south, east, west, and so many feet to a bound.
Mhm.
And then it would say, east 582 feet to a drill hole. There'd be a legal description, so that, let's just say you subdivided your lot.
Mhm.
You would have to make a new legal description.
Yep.
Based on civil engineering markings,
Yep.
for your piece.
Yep.
And the same thing for the piece that you're gonna subdivide. So
Well, those descriptions should exist in the deed for the property.
Yeah, well, the deeds are there on the registry of deeds. I was looking for, either the judgment or the close, we were looking for the, closing letter from the GP. Yeah,
might have more records and.
everything's online. Well, I shouldn't say that because not everything is online.
I'm
So
just thinking
have you
this is
talked to
piece
that lady again?
of the
Did you ever
judgment.
talk to her again?
Haven't
I'll look
connected,
again.
no.
the attachments.
Yeah,
I wonder
again.
if
I want you to connect.
Yeah.
Most most
I'll look
haste.
tomorrow. Again, I'll go
Those
through
dates,
it
I like
again.
that.
In the meantime,
Don't you think so,
he's
Jeff?
still probably
Yeah,
for help, which
There you go.
regardless,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
that's all right.
We're beating him up.
I was
That's okay.
distracted, yeah.
He can take.
Thank you.
We as Board of Health probably, on behalf of the town, still have to move forward regardless of the treasure hunt.
Sure, oh, yeah.
Because whether, we probably don't have enough information to go to the attorney yet.
Well, I think we
There's some
have,
attachments missing.
well, I think we have enough to present a scenario to get an idea from legal. Is there something here? Is there something here potentially?
Okay.
Or would they say, well, based on law or, land and municipality, unfortunately, 30 years have gone by and,
Well, that's what I would
Haven't got-
ask.
you
now,
haven't got
because the
shot.
statute of limitations expired.
right? They
That
might,
would-
yeah.
That's,
Oh, we still exist and they still exist.
Mm.
It's not like town amendment's gone away or the property has changed hands yet.
Mhm.
So I'd be hopeful that there wouldn't necessarily be a time limit, but even if we're 100% in the right and 100% entitled, the cost or the possibility of ever seeing any reimbursement might not be a possibility.
Absolutely.
Well,
So-
even so, I'd like to stop us paying for it now.
It's worth, definitely worth
Yep.
pursuing, no doubt about it.
it never hurts to ask the question, right?
Right. And
Absolutely.
that lady may have,
Maybe-
she may
maybe
have the
something.
plan, she may have gotten the plan from Fred too. She may have it because trying to get it from Fred now, he's been sick so much.
All right, so do we get permission to pass this information on to the attorney and ask the question? Or
How
do we
does-
just do it on our own?
Well, how does that work? Do you know from when a department is interested in connecting with legal, is there a protocol or process?
Usually I just go right to Karis now.
You can,
Yeah.
beautiful. So
Have a chat.
I would say maybe we can formulate some sort of a summary email that lays out or maybe it's a case where Karis, maybe it's something that has to come into conversation. We present it, and then maybe Karis might be willing to attend one of our meetings. I know she has done that for a select board in the evening, and we actually kind of talk it through. This might be something we might have to talk through.
Right.
But maybe the initial intro with an email, just to see what kind of response comes back. If there's an opportunity, or she comes back and says, geez, you know what? Nice
Because
thought, but-
no matter what, that property that we're testing is his. He did put the dump there, it's his. No matter, I mean, I'm not an attorney. But I do have two brain cells that go together once in a while, and that is that's his property.
And I don't think
That's not our dump.
and I don't think that's in
not our-
dispute. I don't think that's in dispute at all.
But why are we paying for it? That's what I wanna know.
No, what I'm getting at is the complications of law, complications of legality could be a problem for us. I don't think factually there's any dispute here. I think what we're talking about is trying to potentially try to regain or become compensated in some way, or to have some other party continue. That is all I'm saying is what could be a problem.
Right.
Factually on paper,
Right.
I don't think there's any disagreement. It's right there. I think that's black and white.
Legally, don't they call that relief from the obligation? I think is what they call it. We're looking for
Yeah,
relief.
yeah. We'll pay for our little place over there. It was a teeny little thing.
Well, if he was in the business and we were paying him to use it, I don't think we should be paying for anything.
Well, there's another thing. Because we were paying him.
But as Tom pointed out, sometimes the law doesn't always work the way we think.
Right.
But I'm definitely all for taking the shot.
Okay, so summary email,
Yeah, try to
reach out,
draft something, or we can reach out to Karis,
see what kind of
In the
feedback we
meantime,
get.
see if you can get the paperwork that woman has.
see if she's
because
got something.
She's got a lot of
Don't
stuff
have.
because, she came to see me And I gave her everything that I had. Because, of course, I still had a cross to bear, yeah, so to speak.
Is that house physically on the landfill?
It's not on the landfill because that house was existing,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
I
and,
didn't know when that was built.
yeah, because that's when, it started. That started when he married, what's her name?
Georgia?
George Dean, yeah. He married her. And then she apparently was very enthusiastic about making more money and stuff like that. And it was her son-in-law that was the first attorney there on the. It was
Okay,
crazy,
so that's our first step.
yeah,
Reach out with a summary email of what we're talking about as far as the landfill goes and testing.
and I'll try to get.
See what kind of feedback we get.
Maybe Tom will have to go.
And
Yeah.
then,
I'll check the registry again tomorrow.
all right,
one more time.
depending upon the feedback we get, will depend upon what our
Right.
next step is, whether we invite Karis to a meeting to have a discussion and see, you know, if we proceed any further or if we're at. Yeah. We don't. Let's, in the meantime, we need to continue on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, just, it is, you know,
So you're saying you'd like to see an actual draft pertaining to our town?
yeah, well, yeah, I thought it'd be, this is nice to have the example of what they'd be looking to, but I think I'd actually like to see the verbiage
Right,
that they're talking about. That to me would be a real draft, which would be the preliminary, you know, write-up of it, of a
Right.
document. This is an example of what they do with an entity,
Right.
but I'd kind of want to know specifically what they're gonna say. Because it's gonna be specific to our situation. And also too, on the acceptance form, what will be in the yes, no options? You know, what are they gonna be saying yes to, or what are they gonna be saying no to? On their half,
Okay.
if they, that's assuming the other party even. If I say no,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's the other thing, I mean, the $1,500, or what
was
are we,
complaining about the house.
are we
across
paying
the
for an
street.
attempt?
I think she sold her.
to have them drafted up?
I see the sign.
ultimately, they could- The other entity could check no, and that's it.
There were all kinds of troubles there.
No answer to that question.
You were in the same boat.
So Jack,
Tom, say that again, please.
well, we go to the extent if we say to Atlas, yeah, well, this sounds good, this is a good thing to do. They draw one up. Well, what if ultimately the other party checks no? Are we paying for them to go through the process for us with the 1,500? Just to do this?
$1,500 to draft it up and get it signed.
And, but in the end, the no box could get checked and
Correct.
then it's a moot point.
Pretty much.
You know what I'm saying? Which could happen. There's nothing that says they have to. The other party has to do this.
And unfortunately, I think that's highly likely.
Well, that's okay. Then let them go to court, let them fight the fight, right? You know
Right,
what I'm
but
saying?
what I'm saying, but Tom's point is, we spent $1,500 and we might not get an agreement. We have to spend $1,500 to have them draft that up,
Right,
present it to us, and present it to the property. If the property owner checks box no, Tom's point is, are we dead in the water? And we spent 1,500 taxpayer dollars to get nowhere. The only one that wins is Atlas, because they did
they
their
got the
job.
$1,500.
And then, of course, moving forward, they would then just have to be reaching out like they've always done. The methodology had been, at least for the testing part, they would call, leave a message with this number. They would just tell them when they were coming out to test the wells. More often than not, it wasn't an issue. They would just show up. There might have been an occasion where they might have got a call back to say, geez, this date, Could you change it? There's maybe something going on the property, because they have the dance studio and
Right,
everything,
right.
might have had events. But other than that, that was their method of letting them know.
Right.
Now, the added part of this too, though, is not just the testing. We want Atlas to do a third-party inspection, TPI. And that's a little bit more involved. That's walking the land. That's just not going to the test wells on the perimeters. That's going up on the property and checking the cap, and it's a little more, on the property. I mean, so what if they do draw this up, the other party says no? Now, is Atlas at the whim of that property owner to get confirmation every time they need to do a PPI as well?
Absolutely.
Do we know who the legal owner of the property is today?
It is the daughter. I don't know her name off the top of my head.
The daughter.
I think
I wonder if it's Dolly Dimple's daughter. I mean, not Dolly,
Do we have in contact?
Georgia Dean's daughter. Is her,
I do not believe so.
her husband,
Even in
I
the
think, was.
KBS for the assessment records.
Oh, yeah, should be the assessment records should have it on there.
Do we reach out to her first? Try to have a conversation and.
I don't think
Trying to
we
do.
should, I don't think we should do that. I think we should get all our ducks in a row first. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a duck in a row place.
Right, but if we can't go anywhere with this until we have pretty good indications.
Right,
Well, I think to Joyce's point, maybe a follow-up conversation with Atlas to present this discussion. Hey, Jennifer, we're talking about this last night, and this is a what-if scenario. What if we go through this process and the end party says no? Where does that put you folks, number one, and what you might have to do, what you'll have to continue to do by law.
Well, I think DEP would have to get involved.
no kidding, yeah.
They say no and don't allow Atlas on their property, that's gonna be a court case with DEP and the property owner.
Well, so far, there's never been an issue with the testing.
Well, that's because nobody knew what they were doing.
Meaning,
Meaning they just said, okay, oh, we have to test it. We have to do this. Okay, let's do it. They didn't say, what do you mean? That's his property. And this is where we dumped, if we have to be accountable for what we dumped over there. But that's still his property, but that was his whole debacle. He did all that, not for us, not for the town,
oh, no, I
for
understand.
him, because he was making
Yes.
$100,000.
No, I get it. It was a personal venture. All
Right,
I'm saying is though, it's been for quite a number of years, it's fallen on the Board of Health and the town of Mendon to make sure that this testing has taken place.
right. But in my wildest dreams, I never thought that was true. See, and that never came in my, I never came back and said, oh, how are we doing in the, and when the thing goes up in town at town meeting, you say, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. But had I known it, I would have been a lot,
Something just kind of slipped through the crack a little
right,
bit.
yeah. And I don't understand how that could happen though.
Well, I wonder today, how many residents in town there was abandoned dump?
Right,
I didn't know, and I've been in town more than 30 years.
right.
Still get voices that still say, geez, we had a town dump. But you're right, it's been over 30.
But I mean,
I-
I can't imagine how that happened though. I mean, when we were talking about it, I was like, are you kidding? We're paying for that? We didn't do
Well,
that.
Board of Selectmen had approved it to put it into the budget.
Yeah. I was like.
But I think what
astounded.
happens once that approval was made, it's just a matter of doing it.
Exactly.
So it's almost like,
Set it and forget it.
it's just accepted that it's always there
Right,
and nobody questions it.
right.
Yep.
All right, so now we're questioning the whole thing. Joyce has given us some firsthand history. You're doing some treasure hunt. We're trying to find out why the town's still on hook for this. And it all started with you asking questions about getting it reduced.
I'm sure blame me.
Well, you started it.
It's a good
Understood.
question.
It is.
The situation we're in though is the resolution for the whole thing.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Beyond.
I mean, well, you know,
how
in,
long
in my opinion, we're
It
not
may
gonna
not-
be
it
able
may
to
be
go
beyond our
backwards
control as well.
into
Right.
many
Right.
steps, but
So
we
Moving
should be
forward.
we
The-
should
the
be able to
important thing-
move forward.
Yep,
And
I agree.
is to determine what our next step is.
Yeah.
Or we spend $1,500 that.
Yeah, I think we should, you
What's
know,
the time frame on this? As far as having to have the inspection done, is it just part of the DEP order?
Well, so what happened a few years ago, back in actually 2014, it became a new requirement in the state of Massachusetts that every 2 years, a formal inspection had to be done by the municipality and a report submitted. You could inspect more often than that, but at minimum, every 2 years. And when this all first came up about the landfill back in 2018, because I think I'd come across some documents that indicated a 30-year time frame for the testing. And when I was adding up the years, I'm like, wait a minute, we're beyond 30 years. Should we really still be testing? That prompted the phone calls to DEP. That's when I had the discussions with Jim.
But are they breathing down our necks right now to get this done?
No,
Well, it was,
no, we haven't had one before.
Okay, but my point is that I'm not opposed to doing it, but maybe if we finish our research first.
well, not so much breathing down our necks, but the other ones that brought it to my attention.
Mhm.
Like, by the way, in addition to the testing,
They
No,
would
you
like this
folks-
done.
are supposed to be submitting
Mhm.
an inspection of the landfill every couple of years. And now at that point, we were already 5 years after, or 4 years after
So
it
we're not-
started, we were already in arrears.
But I'm just, but.
She's asking about the agreement, the access agreement alone.
Oh, the agreement alone? Oh,
No.
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 We don't even have to have.
No, we don't.
No, it's
This-
optional,
This was something that was brought up by Atlas.
right?
kind
so
of
they
a-
could make some more money.
Kind of menu of things. Well, it makes it a lot easier. If you have an access agreement in your hand,
Oh, absolutely.
you don't have to contact the property.
Right.
You don't have to, doesn't matter whether the property owner at the time says yes or no. You have a legal document
Mhm.
that says you can enter the property for these purposes.
This also raises the question, should there ever be a transfer? Would something like this have to be recorded
Oh, I would
To the-
definitely
to
say
the
so.
property, right?
Sure.
So,
I would say it would become part of the deed,
Oh,
like an
absolutely.
easement or any of those, the encroachment, any of those things that are
I mean, which should also be a question for
right
Jennifer.
away.
I think we need a follow-up with Jennifer at Atlas. You know, kind of going through the discussion we just had about the what ifs. And then,
Do we do it by email or do we invite her to a meeting?
we could just make a phone call. I mean, I've
Okay.
talked to her in the past.
All right.
I wouldn't mind reaching out and
All right,
calling
so
her,
we'll do a phone call.
having a phone call.
Call.
Yeah. Sure, no mind.
You already have a relationship with her.
Yeah.
And, ask those questions.
Yeah.
And we'll see what the response is.
Have you ever talked to her yourself on phone? Is
No,
that
just
just by
email
Okay.
communication.
Now,
Yeah, I
that
think we're-
third-party inspection is still gonna take place,
Yes,
regardless of that agreement.
yes,
Because didn't you say it's coming up
yes.
So
The end
by
of
the
this
end of the
month, she
month.
said she didn't have a date.
the end of this month?
Yes.
Okay. So out of curiosity, she expecting just to go irrespective of what we do with this?
Yeah, because we already paid for that. That's a separate charge that we were paying for. We don't need this access agreement at all. This is just an option of us giving to the Board of Health. So we paid for the gas reduction to see if we can get that done, and we paid for the third-party inspection.
Right, so what I'm getting at is then what will they do? Will they just follow the routine they've been following?
Yeah. As far as I know, yeah.
To go and do the inspection? They're gonna call this number. If nobody answers, they're gonna leave a message.
Yep.
And then just gonna go and walk the land.
That's my belief.
Can we get, I'll maybe talk to Jennifer
Okay.
and just confirm. Because walking the land is a little different than going to test wells.
Well, I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
definitely, choose,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, I'll call them.
It's not gonna hold up the wheels from turning.
No,
So we are gonna get into compliance because the third party is gonna do the inspection.
Right.
So we're gonna be good for 2 years.
right,
I think this was merely, value added
yeah,
because it becomes a legal document.
and I'll ask that question, how does this, something like this, assuming the other party says yes, does this actually get applied as a, part of the deed for the property?
Right. And what if,
And what if, right, they say they go the
Right.
other way,
did we just
correct?
get rid of $1,500
Right.
worth of taxpayer money
That's what I'm thinking.
and not get any, well, if we ask the question, we're gonna know.
Right. Mhm.
Okay. Have an action item.
All right. Anything else on landfill? All right, we've exhausted that topic. We'll
Sorry,
go
Jeff.
to Pauline with the health agent report, please.
So we were talking, with regards to, 10 Northbridge Street. Steve Donatelli and myself have been, monitoring it, and as a matter of fact, Steve went up there today and took a look at it, and it's, still dry, and he lifted the lid and it's not full at all. I did send him, the property owner an email and asked him with, as far as engaging, engineering services. And he told me that he was going to land planning today, to, engage their services. I
Fantastic.
plan on following up with him tomorrow to make sure that that's the case.
That's great. Thank you so much for working on that with the whole. Steve, to get that done.
Well, Steve and I are gonna continue to monitor it, but it's dry. It really is.
With all the rain we've had, huh?
Yep, it's dry. And we were both, pleasantly surprised, and lifted the lid and it's still, there's no reason for him to have it.
That was the, and that was the one on Northbridge Street.
Yes,
Yeah, that's all the, in-law apartment.
Yep.
Apartment
yep.
brought to our attention. No, that's fantastic.
So we'll continue to monitor it and, like I said, I'll follow up with him tomorrow to make sure that he did in fact engage
How
engineers.
long has it been since it was?
Oh,
Weeks ago?
no, it's past 30 days.
Yeah,
So
'cause I
it's been
remember-
pumped? I thought he was out there earlier.
John went out,
Or Gibson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't it only half full when he went out?
yeah,
So we said that,
Yep.
they could go a longer period of time.
yep, absolutely. And now, like I said, Steve and I have been, between the
So
two
we're
of
gonna be
us.
at the 2-month period
Yeah,
at this point,
yep,
and it's in good shape.
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Much better than what it was before. With regards to, North Avenue, I spoke with John Gibson. John Gibson did pump it. He's gonna send me the slip. We asked him, what was it, last week, or last
That's what I'm
Thursday?
picking up.
Yeah.
Couple weeks ago, yeah.
I did see a concern earlier with regards to the vehicles that are packed there, and I'll speak with Mr. Audie, tomorrow. And I'll let the board know. We, with regards to the, bed bug issue at Sunrise Apartments, it sounds like, Laurie, has it under control. They've been monitoring it. They did speak with, the, two of the units. The one unit, the, suspect couch has been disposed of. And, the other unit, there has been no new activity whatsoever. So they're gonna continue on with the course of treatment that they have set up with Milford Exterminating and keep us advised. And I asked them to please send us the reports when Milford Exterminating goes there. And they said that they absolutely would. So we'll keep you advised on that one too.
Fantastic.
We've had no, knock on wood,
That's so
no
creepy.
complaints. I know, I'm scratching.
I know, it gives me the goosebumps just right now.
We had Jody, myself, and Dan tagged along. We went out and we did the tobacco compliance retail education checks. We started them, on October 17th. We did half and then we did the other half
Yes.
yesterday. So I do have a particular concern with regards to, DB Mat. We received a complaint, what, like a month ago?
Is that on 140?
The
That's
one
one-
right,
one-
one right over here.
Corner of Main Street and 16.
Oh, over there, like, oh. Yeah,
So, actually, it wasn't a complaint. It was Danielle that went in to do
Food inspection.
the food inspection. She noticed that the humidor, there were no locks on them, which is a requirement underneath our regulation. So she notified the office and I went up and spoke with, the clerk that was up there and expressed the concern that the locks weren't on the humidors. And, I asked her to, if she would get the business owner on the phone, and I spoke with him, a nice gentleman. He assured me that the locks would be on there and, you know, when that was the case, I let him know that I would come back to check, in which I did, and the locks are on there. We went in on the 17th to do the, retail, education component of it, and, the locks weren't on there.
we're not on it?
No.
Oh, jeez.
So, we spoke with the son of the property owner who let us know that, you know, the customers were complaining about it, so they took the locks off. They didn't like it. It wasn't convenient for them, this, that, and the other thing.
Wah, wah,
Again,
wah.
right, went through and let them know that it was a violation of the tobacco regulations and that I was going to bring the matter before the board and for discussion as to what the board's pleasure is with regards to fining them or sending a warning letter. The fine is, for the first offense, is $100.
That's it based in our regulations.
Yes.
2017 regulations.
Other tobacco, places in town. You had no
So,
issues
no,
with humidors.
no, we did. There was another one, Gasco.
Okay.
They did not have the lock on well, they had the lock there. But when I moved the door, because I moved the doors to make sure, the lock fell down on the floor.
It was
on the
fake
ground. Right. So, and the same thing happened at DB Mart, by the way. And I had her come over and make sure that the lock was secure there. But Gasco did not have a lock on their humidor.
And that's on
Also.
140.
But
Is that on 140?
Cape Road, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How many other places do we have?
There were,
We have a total of 7 tobacco stores.
yeah,
So we had 5 doing it right and 2 doing it wrong,
yeah.
and the 5 that are doing it right,
Well, in fairness, not all 5 had humidors either.
Right.
Okay.
Is Gasco and DB Mott the only 2 that have humidors?
No,
Are there
No.
others that have
and
humidors
they were locked.
that are doing it correctly?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I ask this stupid question?
No question is stupid.
What's a humidor?
For
Keep the
cigars.
cigars in.
Certain
Oh.
temperature?
Yep.
Oh,
so the people that are going to the establishments that have humidors that are locked are continuing to buy cigars.
Mhm.
And the store owner and the customer are continuing to get along with the lock. So it's not by
A
any
big deal,
means
right.
hindering business.
Mhm.
So to answer DB Mott's concern, it's not a problem for your fellow competitor. It shouldn't be a problem for you.
Mhm.
Your customers are just gonna have to get used to that extra few minutes it takes to select their cigar.
Mhm.
What is the basis for the lock humidor being locked? The core basis for why a lock should be on a humidor.
Well, it's Massachusetts general law, first of all.
It's MPL.
Yep. And then if it's a variety store and you have a kid that goes in there and say the clerk is busy and exactly.
Yeah, because the humidors,
Very easy.
because they're not behind the counter, they're in, like on the side
They're
of the
all
store.
open, so, and anything that's open that that a customer can go to that contains tobacco.
Yep.
Has to be locked.
Well, they still locking up razor blades?
Oh,
Are they
yeah,
still locking those up?
everything,
Well, yeah, I mean, high theft,
Yeah,
yeah,
and they're expensive,
oh
Yep.
yeah, they are.
you know?
yeah.
The reason I ask,
Obviously, I don't use them that often.
and the reason I ask some of these questions sometimes is just for public who may be listening or may
Right.
view it after. Put in context why we're thinking of making a decision a certain way.
And they do know that cigars cause bladder cancer.
Well, we went in, that was part of our
There's a
check.
sign there too.
So we went in and made sure that the signage was there, made sure that they understand. We went through the tobacco regulations with them. We also went through the whole packet as far as the flavored tobaccos that are not allowed in Massachusetts. We did find one retailer that had some flavored cigars, and another retailer had some products that they probably, in fairness to this one particular retailer, it's a new business. He really wasn't sure. Again, it was an opportunity, teaching, learning experience. He immediately removed them from the shelf. And the same thing with this other establishment that had flavored cigars. They immediately removed them from the shelf. And it's something that Jody's in the area a lot because she does a lot of the surrounding towns. So between the two of us, her and I are gonna kind of go in and, hi, how you doing type of thing, you know? Been doing that a lot with different food establishments as well.
So what does the board think they want to do? And Colleen, obviously, your guidance as to what the appropriate thing to do about the VMAT at this time is. I mean, I know what I think, but
I mean, I think that we have to stick to the regulations, and the regulations state what the fines are for an offense, for a first offense. This is an offense. And
would it be appropriate to do a written warning first?
absolutely,
I don't know what my,
Well, I've always liked to give an opportunity to somebody.
Mhm.
Sometimes maybe just a, a letter of, awareness kind of puts a little more, I guess we better correct the situation type of thing. I don't like the fact that they, sounds like they tried to fool us.
Mm.
That takes away points. Be better off if they just didn't do it and you went and didn't find a lock, but they tried to fake it. That puts a different element into the picture. I'll defer. Joyce thinks, but I will defer to your judgment. And what you think, given what you saw in the context of discussions you had, the mannerisms, those things, but I could go either way.
Joyce?
Well, I think that, she told him. She, was very specific that this is what he had to do, and he didn't do it. I'm an advocate of saying you have to be responsible for what you decide, the decisions that you make that are wrong. So,
So I guess we're gonna let you handle it in the way you feel appropriate.
so with regards to DB Matt, I feel that he was given ample opportunity. Took the time to speak with the property owner and educate him with regards to the tobacco regulations. Actually left a copy of the tobacco regulations with the clerk that day. And went back and was happy to see that the locks were on. And I said, okay, I'll leave it at that. But when we went back for the third time, I feel that
He didn't know, you think you were coming back.
Exactly.
Technically.
That's how I feel with regards to DB Mart.
Okay.
With regards to, so Gasco, I'd like to extend the same courtesy as I did with DB Matt, where we educated them, didn't issue the fine. If I go back and the lock is not on again, or is there and then falls on the floor, then I think that, we should follow the same pattern as DB Matt.
Oh, absolutely.
consistent.
Whatever we do for one, we gotta, do
Right.
for all the other. All right, so we're gonna give DB Mart a fine. First fine
Yep.
for $100.
And I think that Gasco should have got a warning letter.
Okay.
But another, any other event will
Yep.
be fine.
And I let
Great.
the son of the property, of the business owner, DB Mart, I let him know that it was $100 fine. But that I was gonna bring it before the board
No?
for a discussion.
I wish I had some history to share with you. Because if there was history that was relevant. That I could recall, then we would know if this is a pattern or not. But we went a period of time without tobacco enforcement. So the only thing that I can recall about DB Mart, a number of years ago, I remember problems with, like cold cuts that were outdated. And, they weren't too, quick to
Yes, we
remove them. Yeah. Shouldn't be eating them when you're in date, but anyway.
Yeah, that's like eating sushi from a gas station.
You don't want cold cuts from a gas station either.
Sorry.
That's the only thing about that particular address that I can recall, and I can't even say if it was the same owners. So that's the only thing I have to offer
Mhm.
for history. So we're kind of starting fresh,
Yep,
we're glad to have you on board and do what you gotta do.
okay,
And we're
Thank
being
you.
consistent in the process.
absolutely.
DB
That's
Mart's a
very
little different stage than Gasco.
Mhm.
And I guess maybe in the phrasing of the letter, I guess, I don't know, I'll leave it to how you want to word it, but maybe. I don't know how you do that. I don't know if you have a standard way of wanting to write that up or.
I do. I'm
Okay.
gonna go back to the original, the first visit.
Yeah.
I have it in my calendar, and then that I returned, the lock was, that the lock was there, was on. Well, the lock was there, let's say this. All the other humidors were locked and I tested them. There's one particular humidor when I went back after Danielle going in there. The one humidor, it must be the popular one, the lock was there. And I will move the glass to make sure it's secure and the lock fell on my feet. And the clerk was, and I believed her, she was like, she said, that was me, that was my mistake. I honestly thought that it was on there. So I let her, I had her come over and lock it immediately and I made sure. And then, when we went back, that was probably a week before I went out with Jody, and then we went out with Jody and there were no locks on again.
Yeah, no, hey,
So I told him I was disappointed too.
I'm sure I'm not telling you anything, but obviously you're establishing
Hmm.
the groundwork
Mhm.
for the future, and you're following all the rules and regulations, so, by all means.
It was a great opportunity and I think that for the most part, the establishments appreciated us being there and going over,
Yeah, knowing the rules, right.
the signage location, I've left them the tobacco regulations, extra signs for them. Explain to them, Jody is very, very thorough, goes through the various products. That are, banned in, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I mean, she's very thorough, make sure that you understand it. She actually, after she completes it, actually has them sign an acknowledgement saying that, she reviewed all these things with them and that if they had any questions. So it was very fulfilling to go into the different establishments, and take the opportunity just to have a discussion with them, and they appreciated it as well. They truly, and we also let them know that now that we've done the retail checks with them and gone through everything, that there will be a youth compliance check in the future. No, obviously didn't say when, but let them know that this is the next step of this process. So they should not be surprised.
Excellent.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
So, then we had the, yesterday, we had the NACAN training. I wasn't able to attend, but Jack,
Yeah, it was very received, well, Tom was there,
Are we see ya?
we had 7 people total, so went pretty good, 7.
Okay, yeah, I unfortunately it didn't fit into my work schedule. But thank you.
yep, so we also sent a sample of a kiosk over to the police chief to ask his opinion, with regards to placing that in the lobby with some Narcan kits in it. We're just waiting to hear back from him. Jack did some research on, different, just different cases that we could use, and place them in the, lobby. So we sent one over to the chief and hoping to get his opinion back, and then we can put the Narcan kits in there and they'll be available, for whomever in the community may need them. They'll be easily accessible too.
So sad, though.
I know if we just, save that one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. Would it be possible maybe in the early spring, approximately 6 months from now, to maybe do one in the evening so that maybe we can
Sure.
get people like myself that during the workday, if we can't break away, provided there's interest, and I don't see why they wouldn't be, but
Absolutely.
All right.
that was kind of my excuse.
Sure.
And,
We can absolutely do. We can do as many trainings as we want.
why don't we try to do one in April?
Sure. Absolutely. We also have the presentation that we're gonna be doing with the at the senior center with the fire department. The emergency, they're gonna do fire safety and we're gonna do the emergency preparedness component of it. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, great things.
What's the date on that one?
November 7th.
7th, yeah.
Seventh.
Because, yeah, right, how could I forget that after?
Yeah.
I needed a hearing aid. I thought they said the 2nd and they said the 7th.
That's at the senior center?
Yeah.
Question, in your role as health agent for so many years, have you ever had to Narcan somebody?
No,
Just one. You personally had ever had the opportunity to ever?
no, I mean, mostly, honestly, I mean, it's, I could see it possibly happening if someone came into like the town hall and they ended up in the Board of Health office or in the senior center. But now the good news is that we have offered the training and given a Narcan kit to the senior center so they can administer it themselves.
Yep.
That was at the library, and the schools.
Mhm.
We gave a kit, to each one of the schools as well.
Yeah, I think one of the first times I remember hearing the Narcan first kind of came on the scene, it was a custodian at the Fitchburg Library.
Absolutely.
It saved the life.
Yep.
He had, was given the training, he had access to the Narcan, and it was at the public
Yep.
library.
How many years roughly back do you recall would that roughly happen? Would you know?
Mhm.
Was it, would you say it might have been pre-fentanyl? Pre-fentanyl days?
No.
Not
I
that
don't
far
think I
back.
know. I don't
Okay.
think it- that far back. I'm going back 3-4 years maybe.
Oh, okay.
I heard it on the news and I was like, wow.
Well, the reason I'm asking is, and I had a discussion with Jack about this. I know in the presentation, you're familiar with the presentation.
Mhm.
And they talk about administering it. I didn't know if there'd ever be a concern for someone to potentially, given fentanyl and the dangers of fentanyl, just even touching fentanyl. Is there a potential concern for the safety of the individual administering Narcan to someone who potentially is overdosed by an opioid laced with fentanyl and that person somehow has possibly fentanyl on their person, their hands or their clothes or something. And this person going to administer it is put in proximity where they could become potentially in contact with fentanyl. Is that too remote a possibility?
I mean, anything is possible. I'm not gonna rule anything out. You know, I mean, I would think though that, I mean, there would have to be a substantial amount of it. I mean, even if it's just, you know, like, you know, a
Right,
small
and you
amount
have to
bring-
get it, you'd have to have it in your system. You'd have to, it would have, I mean, even just not breathing it, it won't do it. I mean, you have to really be, you know.
There have been cases of police officers actually just touching it, being adversely affected by fentanyl. And they even, in Dan's presentation, enough, and it was, they used a pencil head, just a little bit on the head of a pencil. Could not, as it was phrased, could be lethal,
Mhm.
not just be a little issue, it could kill you.
Hmm.
That's a very, very, very tiny amount.
Yeah,
And it was mentioned, one of the folks attending had made reference to one police department where their officers won't do it.
Hmm.
Whether that's because of within that organization, contractual, but from the town,
They
that
won't
person
do Narcan, you mean?
would not do Narcan. No, they will not carry Narcan.
Hmm.
So I
wasn't
just
aware
I
of
raise it as a, it's a fentanyl's a very, very, very dangerous substance.
Right.
Extremely dangerous. So you just, and again, it's you, I know in the presentation, you're ultimately, the goal here is maybe that one time you might keep somebody alive long enough to get additional medical treatment to keep them going, because the Narcan is only temporary. As Dan explained, it's probably good for about what, 30,
30
45
minutes,
minutes.
yeah.
Kind of takes away all the opioid effect and kind of reversing, you actually get back up and start walking again. After being basically out and unconscious.
Mhm.
But then in a short time, they're gonna feel the effects of the opioid again. So I'm just, in viewing it, I just had that. Maybe I'm being overly. I just didn't know how,
I wonder in a situation, in an emergency situation. I mean, you come across a motor vehicle accident, you're afraid that the person that's trapped in the car the car's gonna catch on fire. You make a split second decision.
Yeah.
That you think is the best thing to do, and you remove the person from the car.
Mhm.
And they sustain an injury because they had something already injured that you may have made a little worse.
Right.
They burn the car. You might have, sustained a laceration,
right,
pulling the person out of the car.
Right.
I guess you make a decision.
Right.
The scary part is that such a small, minute amount,
can kill.
I don't know. It's not gonna kill you instantly. So I guess, I mean, EMTs and paramedics probably deal with that decision
Yeah.
all
Every
day.
day, every day.
I mean, they're being in that field, and you may know, being in nursing and so forth, they've had the training
Mhm.
to look for things. They're probably have gloves on and they're doing close examinations as opposed to somebody just a
Yeah, walking
bystander,
by and doing it, yeah.
just coming on the scene, happens to have a Narcan. He just wants to jump in and help this person without potentially considering all the other little variables that first responders get trained on. I just, I'm not trying to be negative.
No, not
on
at all.
Doing it. I'm just trying to fully understand,
Get the max, yeah.
from the standpoint of, not only the person you're trying to attempt to save, but also the person that's potentially being asked to respond. What they're
I
not.
think it's an individual decision.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, if it's whether you choose to get involved or not, I mean, and then also I think too, it's, if it was a family member, I mean, you know,
You probably wouldn't think twice.
exactly.
And that's situations, Jack and I were talking, it would that's probably where it's gonna come into play. Somebody you know, family member.
Right.
It's-
And that's
you want
why
them
we
twice.
offered it, you know, the likelihood of us ever, like in a professional atmosphere at the town hall having to
Ever
do
have,
it is
yeah.
very unlikely. This is for, you know, like I said, and I think of this as, you know, the parents who maybe suspect maybe that their child may be, you know, dabbling or experimenting, and they find out that we have a kiosk, and they say, you know what,
Just in case.
just in case, and then they go into wake their child up and they have that Narcan.
Yeah.
Because we put the kiosk
Provided.
there.
Well, and I think the fact that you have some training
Yes,
is better than having no training. So at least you know the proper way to administer it.
mhm,
So you're one up on that person that's just walking down the street.
right,
And maybe in time, there'll be additional training because they'll find out better methods. They'll maybe find out methods to protect yourself. So maybe along with the Narcan, you'll start seeing a pair of rubber gloves
right.
or a mask.
And that was actually something that Dan brought up in the presentation about the collapsible or folding masks. Remember you mentioned that? As something, because part of the process might be you're being in it, in part of this process of administering Narcan, there might be an opportunity to actually be doing breaths. Right, and you're kind of getting close and you don't know what responsive that person's gonna be. So having a folding mask even is a
Yeah,
little bit of a protection for that
Mhm.
person.
So maybe it's something that's gonna evolve.
Yeah.
And it's gonna get better, like other things that we've experienced that have gotten better.
But don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. I'm all for putting it out there, having it available for whoever. I'm totally supportive.
No, good to question, and I appreciate that information, because I wouldn't have thought of that unless someone were to be spewing it at me, that, you know, could be in harm's way. And this way here, if the situation were to arise and that were to happen, first thing you're gonna do is call 911. After you've done the
Absolutely.
Narcan treatment, and you're gonna say, hey, listen, I just did this, this is where I am, and I may have been exposed, send help.
I think that was what, step 2?
Yep.
Is
Yeah.
presentation?
There you go.
911.
Yep,
yep.
All right.
we requested the mobile vaccine unit to administer the COVID booster to come to the town of Mendon.
Awesome.
They responded back and let us know that we should be hearing from them shortly, whether or
Great.
not that they can provide us with a date. We did share the link for the COVID, the mobile unit is going to Blackstone on November 8th, and Jack sent it out to everybody. And everyone, all are welcome. But we are hoping to,
There is so much of it around now.
mm,
I know so many people who have it.
yeah, yeah.
COVID. No,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
it's scary.
Well, you know what happens? It's same thing happened last year. The windows closed, the kids went back to school, COVID cases went through the roof. Then they leveled off in December. So I'm kind of keeping my
Hoping,
fingers crossed.
It is Mass still tracking
Oh, yeah,
cases.
not like before though.
Right,
Not
right.
like- Yeah, that,
I'm sure a lot of them go non-reported
Yeah.
because.
well, yeah. Now, well, they're checking the wastewater too, and that's what, that's how they're really gauging it now. Uxbridge was pretty high. But, and Northbridge had, because Northbridge has the nursing home, so that's what drives their numbers up.
Yeah.
But I know that it's, you know, that there are substantial cases right now. But if we can offer the mobile vaccine unit, have it actually come to Mendon.
That'd be sweet.
Nice.
We
yeah.
were able to get some high dose for a couple of homebound seniors in Mendon, and we got the vaccine to Ann, and Ann went in and vaccinated them.
Good.
They were very, very appreciative, very
Very
appreciative.
good, yeah.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that he was, you know, as a representative of the
Oh, yeah, we were, yeah, we all
Once
worked
There
together.
was access to it that, you know, she was willing to step
Yep.
up and do that.
Hmm.
That's,
Oh, yeah, Amy, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Ann, Jack, me, we just made it happen.
excellent. Thank you.
And then, just with regards to, I don't necessarily have a concern, it's something that I'm just gonna continue to monitor, but the Dunkin' Donuts, up on, 16. I've been in there a couple of times now, for various things, and I'm gonna continue to monitor. The manager there is a wonderful person. She's working with us just to have them be a little bit more conscious of the, food safety regulations. So, her and I have kind of been working together. I pop in there. I've popped in 2 times now, and 2 times I've had issues, nothing critical, but definitely conversation worthy.
Was that the same woman that was there when the little fire happened? Same
Yeah.
manager? Same one?
Yeah, she's really
Yeah.
a wonderful person,
Very nice.
happy to have the opportunity to work with her. And again, it's, you know, a teaching, learning experience
Yeah,
for everybody, you know, and we're getting there. Because there was as long as there's forward progress, so from the first time I went in to the second time, there was forward progress, still a little bit more need for more improvement, so I'll be popping back in there
Do you
again.
know if she has a steady crew of employees, or is there a lot of turnover?
Well, it seems to happen when the manager, when she leaves in the afternoon.
When the cat's away.
Exactly.
I
So,
believe you are correct. There is a lot of turnover in that Dunkin' Donuts.
Because obviously that would make it hard, no matter how good the manager or the assistant manager was. Because you find that you're constantly having to train new people.
mhm,
uh,
we're
makes it-
getting there though.
makes it difficult. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And like you said, forward progress.
That's
As
the,
long as the violations aren't anything.
no, it's nothing,
You know.
nothing serious, but that's how that's how I gear everything is forward progress. That's what I look for. And that's why-
and now they know that you're here,
Mhm.
that you're on board.
Mm,
So they're going to be a little more diligent, I would say, you know, because in the past,
mhm.
It's a new sheriff in
Healthy.
town.
helped us
There you
go
go.
there, you
I
know,
think the employees need to remember that there are cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
Just because someone isn't physically present doesn't mean that they're not watching.
right.
You know, and, you know, it's important for everyone,
Mhm.
you know? It's good for business, good for the employees, good for the patrons.
And and it's things like times like these too, that it's an opportunity for the manager to sit with the employees and go over, food safety 101.
Right.
It doesn't hurt,
No.
then that's kind of between the both of us, we've been doing with them. And like I said, I've seen forward progress, so, and I hope that when I pop in again, I'll can,
One more rung up the ladder.
right, exactly.
Nice.
Good.
Yep,
Excellent.
that's all I have.
That's so good.
Anything else, folks?
It's nice.
Next meeting?
Next meeting would be November 8th. And we go into 6:30.
Yes, please. If it's okay with everybody?
Would anyone entertain an update conversation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Update, well, question, so I just was wondering on a couple of things following up. I don't know if you've been able to see what we did have from the last meeting. I know you're gonna take a look to see what we might have had on file from a property, lake properties that have tight tanks.
Oh, I did look that up. Out of the first page, there was like 7 of them. One of them had a contract from 1995, which I believe was John Gibson. But John Gibson's not the one that's been pumping them, so, and that was the only one agreement that I found out of 7 properties out of tight tanks.
Interesting.
It might be something we may have to,
The hammer down on.
Do we know if we have a direct regulation that states they have to have a contract? I remember hearing that.
I can ask Steve Donatelli or Tom Reiner. That'd be a Title V thing.
Yeah, let's ask that question, because I remember it coming up, and I can't remember, I thought it was a property on the lake. And a tank was maybe being installed, and that was one of the components of that whole agreement, was a contract to service it. And we were supposed to get a copy of that contract.
And it's supposed to have an alarm
Right,
that when it needs to be
Yes.
serviced.
wasn't it 2 alarms?
There's two, I believe.
Yeah, I think one alarm
I
is
know,
like
alarm,
the warning,
yeah,
and the other alarm is,
yeah,
Shut
you're
up.
dead
You're a
now,
little late.
you're dead now,
yeah.
right,
But like I said, I remember that there was supposed to be some sort of contractual agreement with a pumper presented to
absolutely,
the Board of Health, but I don't know where it's written.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll ask Steve Donatelli. Tomorrow.
Had we had any further communications at all regarding the Marchand situation?
The attorney Horn said he will want to attend the next Board of Health meeting, which will be November 8th.
Okay.
He does want to appeal the process.
Speaking of which, so we sent a email to the DEP with regard in the spirit of Attorney Hahn asking for an appeal and asking the DEP to actually be present at that next meeting. Because the Title V regulation that they quoted stated that, and I also spoke with Jennifer Massionis, stated that the local had the authority to vary any of those regulations and the department. So that's where we requested the DEP to be present. We can send this email that Mary Beth sent back
Did
stating
you respond?
she's responded today. She wrote. Hi, Colleen. Regarding your question pertaining to a variance per 310 CMR 15410, department approval of a local approving authority variance determination is not required. However, the regulation clearly states that the local authority and the department must grant the variance. That's why we asked them to be present. She said, in response to your previous request for DEP to attend an appeal hearing in general, Mass DEP does not participate in a local approving authorities permitting decisions or appeals. Therefore, DEP will not be attending the appeal hearing scheduled for November 8th.
So basically, we're on our own.
So they don't do anything, they
No.
don't ever, no,
They don't do nothing.
you know, it's annoying.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, it'd be nice, but Ernie's doing his job.
Mhm.
His job is to represent his client.
Right. Yeah.
And we're gonna do our job. I mean, he's not following, he's been operating illegally in the town. So he's been doing it wrong since January 1st, 2023. He's come to the table a little late.
Mhm.
And he's still not getting all his paperwork, and the excuse
But
that
it would
can't
be
find
nice,
somebody to fill out his paperwork, and that he's gonna wait till the beginning of the year. That was his statement at the meeting, and that's when his attorney jumped in and said, I'll be doing your paperwork this weekend.
I
It's still
think,
not complete.
I think it would be nice if it were just from January 2023.
Well, that's why I asked you
Yeah.
when that major violation was, because I don't know if I was involved with the Board of Health at that time. But dumping in the river in Uxbridge,
Right,
that's major,
right.
all right? And, you know, we've been,
He's got a few other things where he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. I mean,
so, I mean, and there are other
without,
towns
yeah,
that don't grant him a permit.
right, right.
So we've been
Over,
lenient,
yeah,
and it's not fair to the people that are following the rules.
right.
So I mean, bring it on. I mean, I don't, we're not being heavy-handed. We should be.
We're not being what I would consider not being arbitrary and capricious.
Here you go.
One of Jack's favorite things.
It
That's
is.
one of mine too.
Um,
Yeah.
I love that.
It's just, but there's a basis for what,
Yeah,
what we're doing.
absolutely.
And
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not-
we're not just sitting around
It's not with any malice.
No.
whistling in the wind
It is
because we don't like them.
possible to look up when that violation was in Oxbridge.
There is a folder on Marchand, so I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, it was dumping in the river.
Well, I'm sure experts would remember.
Yeah,
We can
you call,
speak
you
with,
call
um,
the Board of Health there.
Because I
Mr.
mean,
Egan.
when
Aaron,
he and his
yeah.
son and
But
his
Missy's
attorney
there
came
too.
to the Board of Health,
Isn't that what Missy is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mickey's there.
we weren't gonna, based on his business practices, we were not gonna grant him a permit. And he told us in that meeting that he was gonna be an advisor and his son was taking over the company in his uncle's honor. And he was warned then not to follow in the old ways, the junior was. And we're finding out,
He's even worse.
it doesn't look like Junior's in the driver's seat. His father still is.
Right.
I mean, if there are other towns that have had enough,
Exactly. One's enough's enough.
I mean,
I wonder if they've ever looked to quote unquote have an appeal or variance granted in any of these other communities that have shut them down.
we can ask around, right?
Just curious.
I mean, the attorney is doing his job.
Agreed. Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Oh, yeah.
But
It's, he's following the process,
we,
quite
we
frankly.
we have to do which is our job, and, you know,
It's not easy.
well, no,
November
because
8th will,
we have other septic haulers
That do, are
that
obedient,
follow the rules.
right?
You know, I mean, we have some that might be a little slow or need a reminder to get their pumping records in, but they get them in.
Mhm.
We're talking about someone who's been operating in town illegally.
any update on rooster regulations as far as communications with ag?
No, I haven't heard back from that other woman, now that you mention it.
Really? Okay.
I told you Ellen is not.
Yeah.
Doing it anymore.
Yeah, he reached out to somebody else who's taken, I
Yeah.
He told me to contact.
Right.
Yep, okay. Yeah, maybe another reach out. Was that through a Mendon address? Mendon email address out of curiosity?
Yeah.
It was.
Yep.
Yeah, they should be able to kind of get their okay if they're and change that wording. Folks all remember what we're gonna do there, right? The rooster rigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, help me.
It was a matter of, I had presented a few weeks back about, the purpose that we had defined in the rooster regulations, and upon rereading it, I thought that it didn't quite represent what the purpose of the regulations were for. And I came up with a revision statement that I thought better reflected what the purpose of the regulations were for. And it seemed like at the time, folks were on board, but we wanted, because of the process, the Ag Commission is kind of the first line of
Right,
defense, if you will,
right, right.
right? So
Yeah.
we wanted to kind of put it to them
Sure.
to see what they thought, and we just been having trouble connecting to have them look at it and get their quote unquote blessing. And then at that point, we would, if they were okay with it, we would make it, we would change it. And the last thing was, I think there's something came up on the meeting where you talked about, conversation was about possibly implementing additional regulations on Title V needs, fines and so forth.
Oh, we were talking about non-criminal
With regard to
citation,
non-criminal
right?
process.
You can't use a non-criminal citation, to enforce a Title V regulation, because Title V has its own set of
Yeah, it has its
fines.
own- yeah.
You can only use non-criminal on your bylaws.
on our own regulations that we create.
And, right, and like the Board of Health regulations, the bylaws and any Board of Health regulations, that's the only way, time you can use non-criminal citations.
So I think that was in context of the discussion about whether or not we needed to be more restrictive with the idea of Title V inspections.
Right, and did that come up when we were talking about people who were buying properties to cash?
Catch deals versus,
And then they weren't getting us the Title V.
Right,
right,
yeah.
Reports,
right.
so we
Right.
have a property that.
So you can adopt a regulation yourselves with regards to that.
Right.
Whether you want to find, establish a fine or a regulation that if a Title V inspection is done and the Title V inspector doesn't file the report with the Board of Health, you can adopt regulations.
How about just implementing a regulation that specifies the guideline for when the Title V has to be done with the property transfer? We know that in a bank situation, it's, the banks are gonna mandate it. It's in these other situations where the banks, where that loosey-goosey element might exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should speak with town council with regards to that, because
Okay.
honestly, how are you going to enforce that, other than through the conveyances, which we do check, but then we would be sending out letters, to those conveyances and basically chasing them for.
Would you think there's any? So would you think there's any merit in pursuing or not?
Well, with Title V, when I get the property transfers from Gene now, I do send out, if I don't have a Title V on the record for the Board of Health, I do send out a letter saying, we don't have a record on file for you, please send it, otherwise check off why you don't have one, which is between spouses or between siblings, that type of thing, those 4 exemptions that Title V allows for.
And how
But
is
they need
that,
to respond.
and how has the public been responding when you send those letters?
They usually get a Title V to me, and sometimes it's put into a trust. I'm seeing a lot of trusts coming through Mendon.
Okay, and in those situations, Title V wouldn't,
No,
Be
Title V is not
required.
required.
because it's a,
Mm.
okay,
I mean, you still could, and you could put it on as a topic for further discussion on, on your agenda. To adopt a regulation, and to Jack's letter, add that sentence, failure to provide it, blah, blah, may result in whatever fine you guys want to establish. You could do that. That's easy enough, but you have to adopt the regulation first.
well, something to
To do
maybe
that, that
talk
would be,
towns
to
are.
draft it up and then have a public hearing on it.
Yeah, okay,
You could absolutely do that, and that would just be a paragraph.
yep,
And then you could use the non-criminal citation for that.
we'll apply that.
Yep.
Okay,
And you'd have to put that verbiage into the regulation too. We could do that.
Yep.
If that's something that the board wants to pursue,
okay,
you could put it on for a future agenda item to discuss further.
okay. And would either of you folks have any objection as a standard item on our agenda to kind of build in a category, to call it bi-weekly updates or updates? I mean, we meet bi-weekly almost, but just trying to make sure that we stay informed of all the things that happen between our meetings. You do a great report. This is awesome having you with these to give that health
Yeah, it's
report. That's been a big,
Added
Plus.
benefit.
because it closes that loop, because we do all these things in meetings and then we never necessarily circle back on all the,
Mhm.
so, oh yeah, whatever happened at such and such, and, so. But all the other little things that happen administratively, just helps close the
Yeah.
loops, or
Right, closes the door.
kind of closes the door, or maybe opens up another one, who knows, but.
Yeah, the 1 to 2.
Yeah, yeah. That sound like a viable?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, like Jack and I have been talking about 43 Blackstone Street, about this trailer.
Yeah.
Have a Title V report.
I think I got the certified mail card back today from them.
They picked it up.
Yep.
But
Oh, good. Oh,
it
maybe
only
it's
lives
some
right
else.
around the corner. But we've been having a hard time getting action.
Where is it?
Remember the Gillette family? Mark Gillette, Blackstone Street, right-hand side, where you hit the bad curve, the trailer.
Oh, yeah,
Very
okay,
small lot.
yeah,
They
yeah,
lived there forever.
yeah, yeah,
They bought the
right
land.
next to, almost next to Barnes's,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Maybe 2 doors up.
$2, yeah,
I wasn't too concerned when the property changed hands and no one was living there, but they've been renting it out now. And I asked if we had a Title V report, and we don't.
right,
Chances are really good it's a cesspool.
yeah,
I mean, we're talking about a property that was probably constructed in the 50s or 60s.
yeah, before that,
A long time ago.
yeah,
I used to know the owner, so I had been in there when I first started looking for land in Mendon, and that was 35 years ago, so
right,
it's been around for a while. So if you have people living in there, it just kind of heightens the concern that, all right, where's all the paperwork? Make sure that,
right,
everything is good. And I've had a couple of unofficial complaints on the property, with toters full of trash. And they're not on the pickup list, but their toters were out today.
oh,
Now, they're not E.L. Harvey toters.
oh,
So I'm pretty sure they weren't picked up. And Jack confirmed that they're on the no pickup list, but then the toters kind of get wheeled 10 feet away. And then the trash kind of mounts up over the lids. And again, people that know I'm on the board, that know I live on the street will call me up with these things.
right, yes, I know how that is, trust
Yeah.
me.
So, I mean, I try to follow them up, and I had a
Right.
conversation with you, because this is the same house that has there's 3 abandoned vehicles.
Mhm.
There's a box truck, an old FedEx van, and I think a smaller van parked on that property. The property's not that many square feet.
Right,
And again, I told the homeowner that made the complaint that really isn't my jurisdiction. but
right,
I'll see what I can do. So, when I saw people there, I followed it up and I got the owner's phone number and the owner's name, and I know he lives on Megan Court, so he lives right around. the
oh,
corner.
he lives on Megan Court, that's right, we spoke of that, yeah,
So, along with what we were talking about,
Yeah.
We need a way of getting this paperwork collected.
right,
Yeah.
Find it's appropriate, then we may have to, do that. All right, so motion to adjourn,
yes, I move, we adjourn,
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
I,
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you all.
so, Jack, November 8th, I'm